Hey there, and welcome back to the channel. We do have a really fun video for you today. Make sure you are subscribed if you aren't already. Don't miss out on any fantasy football content. In this video, we are going to be going ahead and drafting from the number one pick slot. And this is a highly requested and somewhat of a difficult one, especially when you get to round 2 and 3, trying to figure out how you're going to plan your back-to-back. Once again, this is PPR 10-team league, full point PPR. That's what we're operating under. So with pick number one, this is where it's a little bit of a debate. There are some people that believe Jonathan Taylor is the surefire slam dunk number one pick. There's other people that are willing to take a risk in the full point PPR format and go ahead and select Christian McCaffrey. I don't think honestly either are wrong. There's going to be people saying do not draft Christian McCaffrey, whatsoever, but his upside is incredible. You think about what, the share of touches are going to be in Carolina. They are going to rely on him heavily. However, moving the ball is going to be a problem. Take it with a grain of salt. I still think you should go with Jonathan Taylor number one, but there is discussion to be had for Christian McCaffrey at number one. But we're going to go ahead and select Jonathan Taylor with that selection. And once again, some people are not going to like that. Some people will. So once again, we're going to go ahead, hit start draft, and we go ahead and make that selection here. And Jonathan Taylor goes number one, and the rest is going to kind of fall into place for us here. And then you have to consider we are at the very end of the second round. There's a lot of things to consider. Do you go ahead? Do you go RB heavy? Do you go ahead and get a well-established tight end? In my personal fantasy league at this spot, I went ahead and jumped on the opportunity to get a guy like Mark Andrews. With this spot in particular here, it's tough not to look at Tyreek Hill and still select him. A guy that was a perennial first round selection now finds himself at the very end of the second round. You do have to bank on the upside for Tyreek Hill. You also have Deebo Samuel as well. Deebo Samuel was a touchdown machine last year. I think Tyreek Hill is poised for another good season. We will go ahead and select Tyreek Hill there. And then on the way back here at the start of the third round, this is when you have to have some internal discussion on what you want to do. You can go ahead and select another stud wide receiver in Deebo Samuel. You can go ahead and get a very, very talented tight end who will see a ton of targets once again in Mark Andrews. You think about the usage for Mark Andrews last year, it was absolutely through the roof. And I think that still continues on this season. Once again, that's one of those things you have to be asking yourself when going through these mock drafts. Leonard Fournette is going to see a ton of goal line work. Mike Evans is a guy you also have to consider with the current wide receiver situation in Tampa Bay. Those red zone targets have to go somewhere, and he should be actually seeing more sheer volume, just throughout, the drives progressively. I think you have to consider that. But for me personally speaking, I'm looking at it from the sense I'm going to take a little bit of a risk here, wait on tight end. I'm actually going to go with Deebo Samuel here. Now, once again, that was a tough decision considering I really like Mark Andrews at that spot. And I think that's a spot that you definitely should consider him at. But once again, we'll go ahead and probably see a little bit of a run on tight end. Kittle's obviously, well, it's possible he lasts to us. No, he doesn't. So once again, then you're kind of sitting in the realm of do you go ahead and look at the running back spot? Once again, kind of a pivot point in the draft. There's a couple of guys I do like. Hopefully, the nice thing is we got our back to back. So I think it's honestly pretty essential that we go ahead and get the tight end spot here. Darren Waller should see quite a bit of volume this season in Las Vegas. They're going to be moving the ball more with Devontae Adams being there. Once again, that could eat into some of those red zone targets potentially. So I'm going to go ahead and opt honestly for Darren Waller with the first spot there. And then you can come back and decide, would you rather have Etienne or Breece Hall? Now, this is kind of a coin flip because you look at Travis Etienne, this guy is going to see a ton of volume in the receiving game. So I think that's why you consider Travis Etienne, but also Breece Hall could be seeing a lot more red zone touches potentially than Travis Etienne. Those are the two guys I'm really between at this spot. Josh Jacobs is considered, but For me, Travis Etienne is going to be my selection here. I just think when you consider his receiving upside, even when James Robinson comes back, that's a very, very worthwhile selection, in my opinion. Travis Etienne in round 5, and I'm pretty excited for the next round here coming back. Once again, we've had a couple of quarterbacks go, so now let's think about how we want to play it, because team 2 still does not have a quarterback. We have team 5 that is yet to go quarterback. So at this rate, you might want to wait. Teams won't be taking. So let's just say operating under the idea that Tom Brady's your starting quarterback or Aaron Rodgers. I'm okay with that personally and professionally speaking. I think that makes a lot of sense. You also have the 2 flex spots that you can look at. Overall, you have to consider the upside of some of these guys here. I know a lot of people aren't a huge fan of drafting Michael Thomas, but he absolutely looked really, really good in camp. People were loving, seeing the progression of him working his way back from his injury. I think that's worth a flex spot. So I'm going to go ahead and select a guy like Michael Thomas, and I'm going to wait on that quarterback. I don't think we need to rush into that. Another thing you have to consider, do we get some more, running back depth? Elijah Mitchell is, a cautionary running back, in my opinion, just considering, Shanahan and his willingness to move and shake at that position. But I mean, he found some great success last year, without a doubt, Elijah Mitchell. And once again, you want to make sure you have enough running backs going in these drafts. So I'm going to go ahead and select Elijah Mitchell here. Definitely could have went with a guy like Godwin, but we want to make sure we're evening out our roster. We do see Jalen Hurts go. That does not shock me in the very slightest. I was hoping to go ahead and pick up Hurts, but at this rate, we are not going to get him, clearly. Moving back, we knew the quarterback was going to go at that point. So once again, I'm going to kind of operate under the idea, why waste a position at quarterback when everybody's got their QB at this point? When you're thinking about it in a fantasy sense, why draft one when everyone else already has it and they're going to be selecting other positions of need? So at this point, DeAndre Hopkins is the pick for me. I love his upside. And I think once he returns back, if you can survive without him, it's very, very worthwhile. And then you go ahead and take a look once again on what we have too. We have Jonathan Taylor, Travis Etienne, Elijah Mitchell. We have a good mix there with Michael Thomas. I think, honestly, at this rate, let's just kind of look best player available. Gabe Davis, Drake London, Devontae Smith. Those are some guys we want to be watching, especially Devontae Smith, considering just he's primed for 1,000-yard season. At the running back spot, we want to make sure we have some depth for sure. Tony Pollard's a guy that continues to go very high in drafts. We look at his efficiency last year versus Ezekiel Elliott. It's almost a two yard per carry difference between him and Zeke. I'm going to go ahead and select Tony Pollard with that selection. Once again, we're stacking up on that running back room, I think, and it's a good thing we did. Look at what happened 3 consecutive running backs after, and we get a couple more running off the board here. This made sense to wait on the quarterback. Tom Brady goes here to team 7. So it looked like they hadn't had him either, and they kind of took the same strategy that we did. Once again, you're kind of sitting in a position where, do you go with Dak Prescott and ensure you get a starting level quarterback? I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait once again, and I can go ahead and get another true workhorse starting running back, and you're going to be depleting some of these other teams that have running back needs. You can also look at the wide receiver position. I'm generally a fan of drafting Christian Kirk, but I think Robert Woods should see a huge uptick in volume. We're going to go with him. And then on the way back here, we're going to grab another running back in Damien Pierce. I love how this draft has came out. You get another starting caliber running back here from Houston. We think it, and once again, now all of a sudden the quarterbacks end up going. That is shocking that they are drafting backups at this point. So now you have to consider where we're at the QB spot. I still really like Kirk Cousins here. I think it's very possible he finishes as a top 8 quarterback in fantasy, which we're okay with at this point. Kirk Cousins is going to be our pick. We're not going to let that go any further. Maybe you bank on some upside as well later on. Maybe taking a guy like Trevor Lawrence, who could make a big jump. You also have Nyheim Hines here as an option, George Pickens, Chase Claypool. You could look at the tight end spot if you want to gather another tight end, which in this league, it's always very, very crucial. I think taking Albert here makes some sense for Hunter Henry. We'll take Albert. Um, Selecting him in the 13th round to me, just getting a good steady tight end option on the back half of that to me makes some sense. So once again, now we have to go ahead and make some decisions at that kicker and defense spot, which we're going to see a lot of them go off the board here. To me, big fan of Matt Prater in this Arizona offense. I believe it for sure. Um, I think he's a good, worthwhile selection there. And then on the defensive side of things, Dallas is the clear and obvious one. They're going to generate a ton of turnovers like they did last year, and also they're going to be sack machines there in Dallas. So overall, man, I really like what we were able to do with this pick. I think it makes a lot of sense. Let's take a look once again, kind of collectively speaking, at the roster itself. I think we did super well. Jonathan Taylor, Tyreek Hill, Deebo Samuel, Darren Waller, Travis Etienne, Michael Thomas, Elijah Mitchell, DeAndre Hopkins, Tony Pollard, Robert Woods, Damien Pierce, Kirk Cousins. Overall, I like what we were able to kind of do from this standpoint. People are going to be a little worried about the QB spot, but Kirk Cousins is primed for a huge season, in my opinion. Justin Jefferson is going to continue to get better and better. Adam Thielen, once again, very steady wide receiver 2 option. And KJ Osborne has established himself as one of the better number 3s that we've seen, in recent Minnesota Vikings history. I think he's going to continue to get better as well. Healthy Irv Smith. And this is a team that is going to be throwing the ball even more than they were last year, which was a run focus offense. So once again, thanks for stopping by. Hit that subscribe button if you are new. Also, leave a like on today's video if you did enjoy the content. That's a lot of fun for me to make. And I can't wait to see you guys in the very next Utility Sports video.